What size door should you put on your pole barn? Stick around and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions. Hey everyone, today I'm going to cover a topic that I researched pretty heavily when I was building my garage, and it wasn't an easy answer, but I'll kind of go over, the process that I went through and sort of how I'm using my garage, just to give you guys a better idea on how to plan and what will work best for you. The first item to cover is just your pure size of your garage. And when I say size, I mean the wall height that you're allowed. And that differs depending on what jurisdiction, local laws, building codes, different things like that. And that may actually end up being one of your bigger decision makers, unless you get into like a variance or other means to go beyond what your local jurisdiction allows. If you don't have that, then great, you can build at any size that you want, and that's awesome. You have a lot of options. So in my case, my building code basically said that we couldn't go any bigger than a certain height, and to fit that height restriction within what the local government was saying that I could have, I couldn't go any bigger than 14-foot walls when building mine. So 14-foot walls, that means that obviously you can't go any bigger than that when it comes to a door size. So you do have to go a bit smaller, and that kind of depends on the kind of door and the track and different things like that, which I won't get into all that. If you go just with a standard size door, typically on a 14-foot high building, as far as walls go, a 12-foot size opening will fit just perfectly. So, you can get into other, items, maybe you could go an odd size, a 15-foot wall if your jurisdiction allows, which would maybe give you a little bit taller garage door. But for this video, just to make it simple, I have 14-foot walls and 12-foot door height on mine, but that's sort of what I planned, and I'll kind of show you why in a second here. The second measurement is, width, and that all depends on the configuration that you want to go with your garage. Do you have a single opening? You're only going to go one big garage door, or do you want to have two separate bays, which you can kind of see my one bay here behind me. And that kind of determines a bit about your width decision as well. But I will say that you definitely don't want to go smaller than a 12-foot wide opening if you can avoid it. And here's kind of why. So this is my 3/4 ton Ram here, 2500. And I park it in the garage pretty much every day. And I could have got away with a 10-foot door, but especially, if you have folding mirrors or anything like that, that makes a big difference. But you can kind of see here, I kind of have it centered, not perfectly. It's kind of hard to perfectly center it. But if you look at these mirrors, I have a little bit of a gap. I mean, you could definitely have gotten away with a 10-foot, but boy, it would have been tight to get this in and out with the mirrors extended every time. I don't have to worry about the mirrors extended or not. If I have them folded, it makes it real simple and real easy to park in there. If I have them out, it still makes it real simple and easy. So that 12-foot wide opening was definitely a big consideration for parking a larger vehicle or a vehicle that has bigger mirrors on it. That wasn't my only consideration, but definitely recommend at least a 12-foot opening. Here's another reason to consider. You never know if you're going to put a camper or larger trailer into your pole barn or pole garage. So here you can kind of see I have my camper parked in here. Camper is 8 feet wide, so I do have about 2 feet on each side. However, when you get into longer lengths, you really need the extra width to shimmy a trailer into an opening. It really makes it a lot easier. I don't know that I could have gotten this one in a 10-foot opening, just because of the pure length. I mean, you have to get that in there just about perfect probably if you're at a 10-foot opening. Even though the camper is only 8 feet wide, you do have other things to consider, like awnings. I have those hanging off the side. So that does take a little bit off of that 8-foot width opening. But definitely glad I went with a 12-foot opening. Now again, if I mentioned, if you went with a single garage door opening, you know, as long as you're 12 feet, you know, you're fine. I mean, you can get pretty large, 16, 20, even, I think I've seen even larger than that on some pole garages. So you can get pretty large, and width-wise, you're covered then. But I wanted to go into my next point, and it really is this thing behind me, and that's your height. So height, you know, you can never squeeze a larger vehicle in a smaller opening. A 14-foot opening would have been ideal. You can, anything on the road, I guess, fits underneath a 14-foot max height, you know, restriction. So 14 foot, you're guaranteed you can get anything you want to in there. Again, there's other reasons why you can't go 14 feet, whether it's local zoning, or, you know, maybe it just doesn't fit into your neighborhood, or, you know, there's a lot of other reasons behind that. Heating wise, you know, you have extra square feet of heating and cooling, you know, if you go higher ceilings. In my case, it was just local jurisdictions, and, you know, it just wasn't worth trying to fight over it. And I really didn't need the 14 feet opening. So I went ahead and went with the 12-foot opening. And, you know, a lot of people say you can't get a camper in a 12-foot opening, but you can get a pretty large camper in, and I'll show you what I mean here. Just do your research, you know, ahead of time, so that you're kind of aware of, you know, future needs and anything larger that you want to fit into an opening or into your garage door. So I'll kind of show you here how much space I got left with this, and give you an idea how big of a camper that you could possibly fit into a 12-foot opening. So I think the best way to kind of show you is I can go up to the loft, and I'll give you an idea of what it looks like looking down the top of the camper. This camper is pretty large, though. It is a total of almost 39 feet long. It's a rather large camper lengthwise. So here's what the top of it looks like. And I could pull that door up just a little bit higher if I wanted to, because it's not all the way up. But you can kind of look down the top here and see the top of the air conditioner units and the clearance I have in and out. It doesn't look like much, but it's probably about 8 inches. I'll insert a photo here in the top right corner, and I'll show you just a view of when I'm pulling it in, how much clearance I have against that door. The specs on the actual camper itself say that it's 11 foot 4 inches. So that's why I say I know I have at least 8 more inches if I were to pull that door all the way open. And I'll kind of show you down here. I don't have it all the way open. You know, I have a garage door opener with it preset, so it always opens to the same height. I could adjust it up just a little bit higher if I needed to, but it gives me plenty of clearance the way it is. I got just a little bit left of the frame there, so I could pull that up just a hair. Let me spin around here a little bit. If I really needed to gain a few more inches. But the way it sits now, it's perfectly fine. I can go in and out without any clearance issues. One more additional factor, I guess, to consider, you know, when you get into these size doors is just cost. So 12 by 12 door was not cheap. And by doing 2 of those doors, it definitely adds a little bit to the cost. You could have just went with one big larger door, probably saved a little bit on the cost. But based on configuration of the garage, it may not work out for you that way. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. I like the fact that I have a dedicated bay just for the camper, as you could see. And then I have a dedicated bay for my truck or anything else that I need to put behind the truck in that case. So That was my biggest consideration by going with individual doors. But your use case may be a little bit different, and that cost is something to take into consideration when you purchase you're building your garage, so that you know how to frame it and what size that you're gonna frame it out to. One other item I came across when researching garage door openings and sizes was actually resale value. So some people say that by going with a 14-foot opening or garage door, that it'll help with your resale value later on down the road, because it can be considered an RV garage. I agree with that. I also disagree, depending on the person that's buying the house. I mean, obviously you can fit a pretty large RV into this size garage. Now, if you have a specific buyer later on that's looking for a garage to put, say, their fifth wheel in, they're obviously going to know the measurements that they need, and that may detract them from buying the house with the garage, but it's not going to mean that the value of the house or the garage attached with the property is less. And the reason why is because it's still garage. It's still a large garage. It still can store a lot of equipment, a lot of vehicles, a lot of tools, and a big trailer, camper. It just may not fit their specific needs for that particular buyer. So you'll find another buyer at that point. But in my case, resale value, and maybe some of you, resale value doesn't really matter because you're building it for yourself and you plan to stay there for a long time. Again, just do some future planning on your part before you decide on how you want your garage built and the size of your opening that you're going to need. Just try to plan for the future uses, and you'll be fine with whatever decision you make, and it'll be a good garage. Hey, thanks for sticking around. And if you guys like this kind of content, make sure you like and subscribe. I appreciate everybody who's been watching, and we'll see you on the next one.